Tosi Maharani, Tosi Maharani.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay. All right, it's working. Okay. Thank you very much. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Madhava Kirivardhari Gopi Jana Madhava Kirivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Munatera Manachare Yamuna Tera Manachari Jai Hur Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Madhava Girivardhari Gopi Jana Pallava Girivardhari Yasodanandana Vrajachananandana Yasodanandana Vrajachananandana Jamuna Tera Manachati Yamuna Tera Banachadi Jai Hurad Umadava Kunya Bihari Jai Hurad Umadava Kunya Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadikacharya Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends, say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kund Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturadam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Sambhaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharni Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarini. So today we're reading from 10th Canto, 41st chapter, text 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tan Sametya Bhagavan Akruram Jagat Ishvara Grahitva Panana Panim Aprashritam Prahasan Iva Tansametya Bhagavan Akruram Jagadishvara Grihitva Pananhapanim Prashritam Prahasaniva Tansametya Bhagavan Akruram Jagadishvara Grihitva Paninhapanim Prashritam Prakasanniva Tansametya Bhagavan Akruram Jagadishvara Grihitva Paninhapanim Prashritam Prahasaniva. Okay. Hare Krishna. All right, Hare Krishna. The video is not working, but at least they can hear me. Okay. So, continuing with the verse, Tan with them, Samecha meeting, Aha said, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Akram to Akrura, Jagadishvaraha, the Lord of the universe, Grahitva, taking, Panina, with his hand, Panim, his hand, Prashatam, who is humble, Prahasan, smiling, Eva, indeed. Translation: after joining Nanda and the others, the Supreme Lord Krishna, the controller of the universe. I think probably someone unplugged the camera. That's why it's not working. Yeah, just go and check the plug on it. Took humble Akrura's hand in his own and smiling spoke as follows. So you can repeat: after joining Nanda and the others, the Supreme Lord Krishna, the controller of the universe, took humble Akrura's hand in his own and smiling spoke as follows. Okay, so there's no purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And so there's commentaries by these great acharyas, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami. So read their commentaries. While seeming to smile, and that comes from Prahasan Eva. That's where he's getting this. Krishna spoke to Akrura with humility, Prashratam. He smiled in order to please Akrura, but actually he was full of grief on seeing the city of Mathura because he remembered that he had left Raja. Very interesting. And Jiva Goswami states, although he was Lord of the universe, Krishna took Akrura's hand in his own because he was displaying his unlimited qualities, Bhagavan, such as being affectionate to his devotees. He appeared to smile to show that he was not deceptive. And Sanatan Goswami states, he met with Nanda. It was proper to give up others and join with his friends in order to experience happiness in his pastimes. Though he was Lord of the universe, Krishna took Akrura's hands in his own because he was displaying his unlimited qualities, Bhagavan, such as being affectionate to his devotees. He appeared to smile. This was natural. He had no deception, or Eva indicates it was a slight smile since he was pained by separation from the gopis. Again, Sanatan Goswami is saying the same thing as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So again, Tan sametyaha Bhagavan Akruan Jagadishvara Grihitva Paninha Panim Prashritam Prahasaniva. So Omagana Timiranda Shagananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasma Shi Gurve Namaha. So let me first read from the Krishna book, where Prabhupada says pretty much the same thing. Upon reaching the entrance to Mathura, Krishna and Balaram got down from the chariot and shook hands with Akrura. Krishna informed him, you may go home now because we shall enter Mathura later along with our associates. So what I wanted to speak about today was Krishna's feelings of separation from Vrindavan, because Krishna was apparently smiling, but he was in pain, feeling separation from Vrindavan. And so in order to illustrate this, I'm going to read a quote from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami. And also I'm going to tell the story of Narada Muni coming to Dwarka to see Krishna and then seeing the state that Krishna's in, feeling separation from the residents of Vrindavan. So first I'm going to quote from the Brihad Bhagavatamrita concerning when Gopakumar got to Vaikuntha. And when he got to Vaikuntha, of course, a lot of things happened, but I'm not going to tell that whole story of how he thought that each and every person there who had a four-arm form, like Lord Vishnu was Vishnu, and then finally he had to go through the 7 gates and get to see Lord Vishnu himself. So this particular quote or occasion is in the gardens of Vaikuntha. So in the gardens, occasionally in the gardens of Vaikuntha, I would see my Lord appear as in Braja, performing his pastimes, and I would see the gardens filled with herds of cows. So in other words, even in Vaikuntha, Krishna is remembering and wants to reenact his pastimes in Vrindavan. And so he has a place in Vaikuntha where there is a gardens filled with herds of cows, and he acts as a cowherd boys there. And this is interesting. At other times, I would see him sitting on as usual on his throne in all splendor, but just looking like my Lord Gopal. So, I mean, this is interesting because in this particular verse, the word is Bhagavan, Krishna's God. Sometimes it's translated as God, and then it's understood he has all these opulences, including his opulence of renunciation, where he renounces in the sense of taking on a different mood than that of God and interacts intimately with his devotees like Akrura and others. So I'm going to read Sanatana Goswami's commentary translated by Gopi Pranadana Prabhu. Sometimes Gopakumar caught glimpses of Lord Narayan playing in the Vaikuntha gardens like a coward managing his cows. And ordinarily, you won't see a king going into the pastures and taking care of his cows like a coward. Even inside the Lord's grand palace, where the Lord sat on his best of thrones, flanked by devotees like Lakshmi, Dharani, Shesha, and Garuda, Gopakumar sometimes saw him appearing like Sri Madan Gopal in all aspects of his dress, entourage, and other features. Now, this is quite interesting. It's not only that Gopakumar saw him like that, but he was internally in that mood. Therefore, Gopakumar was able to see him like that. And because Gopakumar is a devotee of Madan Gopal. And when you're a devotee of a particular form of the Lord, you see the Lord in that form in spite of the Lord being in a different abode that's not consistent with that particular form. That's why Jayadev Goswami, in his famous prayers, Dasha Avatars, shlokas, and he prays Keshavadrita, Narahari Rupa, Jaya Jagadisha Hari, Keshavadrita Shukara Rupa, Keshavadrita Haladara Rupa, Keshavadrita Rama Shavira, Keshava or Krishna in Vrindavan with long black hair. Therefore, I'm seeing you, but you're taking this form. You have taken this form. So he's actually relating to the form of his worshipable deity, the worshipable aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now we're going to tell the story from the first part of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which details Narada Muni coming to Dwarka to try to find the best devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in this particular case, or this particular part of the story, Narada Muni is coming to Krishna's house to see Krishna and also to see Uddhava, who is described as Krishna's great devotee. So what happens is when Narada Muni is coming to Krishna's house, many devotees are in the anteroom, that means the room before the bedroom, and they're feeling great anxiety because it is very late in the day and Krishna is still sleeping. Now, we read in the Krishna book that Krishna gets up what? When the cocks crow, not the chickens or the roosters, but the peacocks. I remember in Vrindavan in the early days, there were peacocks in Vrindavan, as hard as it is to believe. Now they've all left. And every morning I would be upset because they would wake me up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, living in the Krishna Balaram guest house. So anyway, so normally Krishna gets up at that time, and even though he's comfortably in bed, embraced by his wife, Rukmini, and the other wives, he just gets up and he does his sadhana bhakti. His sadhana bhakti, first of all, consists of meditating on himself. And that's described in the Krishna book. But in this particular case, Krishna was asleep, and it was late in the day. He hadn't shown up in the Siddharma Assembly House. And what happened is that he was feeling anxiety and depression. You know, one may say depression. Because of his separation from the residents of Vrindavan. And everyone's worried. And there's a lot of things that go on in this particular case. They're talking about Krishna's devotees, especially Rukmini and Satyabhama. They're talking about how Krishna is feeling separation from the residents of Vrindavan, so much so that at night, when he's apparently sleeping, he's sleep talking. He's crying out the names, especially of his girlfriends in Vrindavan, like, oh, Radha, oh, Chandravali. But I'd say that. So, oh, Radha, oh, Chandravali. And his wives are just like, I guess, upset about the whole thing, maybe a little transcendently envious. So Rukmini recounts it. This is a little more detail. The Krishna's calling for the cows, the girls. He reaches for his flute, which he doesn't have in Dwarka. He assumes a threefold bending form at night while he's in bed. He cries and he says, "Mother, bring me butter." And now Krishna is feeling so upset that he pulls the blankets over his head. You ever do that when you didn't want to wake up? He pulls the blankets over his head and refuses to get up. Of course, Satyabhama, being in the left-handed mood, is really angry and says she's really exhibiting transcendental envy. She's saying, even during the day, Krishna is thinking of them. Because Radharani in Dwarka pastimes has become Satyabhama, and Chandravali has become Rukmini. Actually, we know that Krishna doesn't leave Vrindavan, but he can't be seen because the residents are blinded by love and Krishna enters their hearts, as described by Sanatana Goswami. And Balaram has a different opinion. Balaram says Krishna doesn't feel separation from Vrindavan. He's only pretending. And he just does this to entertain the Dwarka Vasis. So there's essentially all these different opinions between the devotees. Balaram relates that he was 2 months in Vrindavan. He told the residents that Krishna was coming. And he asked Krishna to return, but Krishna never returned. Balaram says Krishna is very deceptive. at that point, after all this, and there's some interesting exchanges with Padmavati, who was Kamsa's mother by Drumila, not by Ugrasena. But anyway, you don't have time to tell those pastimes right now. But Padmavati doesn't want Krishna to go to Vrindavan, and she's just thinking that we should just send them money. Basically, at one point, she says send the money, to pay for whatever they gave Krishna during that particular time. And then she criticizes the residents of Vrindavan for not giving him shoes, for mistreating him, like that. So anyway, after Balaram says that Krishna is deceptive, Krishna actually gets out of bed and he's weeping, feeling so much separation from the residents of Vrindavan, and also feeling that he acted in a very cruel fashion. This is another point. So when Krishna was feeling unhappy when he entered Mathura, not only was he feeling the separation from the residents of Vrindavan, but he was feeling, I really am cruel. Look what I did to them. Those poor gopis. I just, in the prime of the youth, I just left them. And Krishna's feeling so guilty, so guilt feelings are also there in the Supreme Personality of God. Whatever we have in this material world is exhibited in God, but it's all transcendental ecstasy. So Krishna says, my heart is like a diamond because I don't feel for the residents of Vrindavan. It does not want to split. I want to help the Brajabasis. And Devaki at this point says, go back to Vrindavan. And of course, this is the point where Padmavati says, we'll send them money to pay for Krishna's expenses during his childhood. She's quite addled in the brain. And she's a very comical character. Even she says Gargamuni can calculate how much we owe because he's expert. He does astrology, so he's expert in astrology, can do that. So Krishna at this point asks Uddhava for advice. And Uddhava basically says, you should go back. And then Krishna says, I'll write them a letter promising I'm going to return. And Uddhava says, you have to return. Padmavati tries to interfere. Rohini yells at her. Balaram begins to cry. I mean, such intense emotions that they have there. And he tells Krishna to return because in Krishna's absence, Govardhan has shrunk from separation and the Yamuna has become dry. So both Balaram and Krishna, feeling anxiety of separation from the residents of Vrindavan and also in guilt that Krishna hasn't gone back, they start rolling on the ground, lamenting. Both of them are rolling on the ground. I mean, such intense emotions the Supreme Personality of God is feeling. In the verse we're reading today, he's hiding his emotions because he's in Mathura. So he's hiding them from Akrura and the Mathura Vasis. And all this crying just like agitates all the Yadavas who come. And they start crying, and the whole sound fills the universe. Lord Brahma comes. Lord Brahma starts crying. Garuda comes, he's crying. And just picture this scenario. Lord Brahma with his 4 heads. He's crying, how much tissue you have. Anyway, so Garuda is crying. And so Brahma, he comes up with a solution. He says, well, just to calm Krishna down, take Krishna and Balaram to this place that Vishwakarma has made on the shore. This is a replica of Vrindavan. It's called New Vrindavan, not in West Virginia. Nava Vrindavan, same thing. And you can also take Rukmini and everyone there, all the apparent residents in this Nava Vrindavan are all dolls or deities. So the others come to watch. Narda and Garuda, they stay in the air just watching from the air from the bleachers like that. Garuda is shading Balaram, and Balaram and Krishna. Balaram places the flute because Krishna is still unconscious. Balaram places the flute, peacock feather, stick, forest outfit, buffalo horn, Gunjamala on Krishna. And Krishna wakes up and he's back in Vrindavan, or apparently back in Vrindavan. And he tells, this is Krishna's mood to be in Vrindavan. So Krishna wakes up and he tells the Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda dolls, or deities at that point, that I had a dream. I dreamt I was the king of Dwarka. What an interesting dream I had. And I dreamt I was killing demons. And Rohini, who was actually there because she was actually in Dwarka as well as in Vrindavan. So she feeds Krishna food, and Krishna sees a doll or deity of Radharani. And he thinks, well, she's not talking because she's angry with me because she heard about this dream in which I got married to other people. 16,108 other ladies. And he jokes with the gopi dolls there, and at the same time, this whole thing is being watched by Rukmini and Jambavati and Padmavati and Satyabhama. They're all watching. And Padmavati and Satyabhama described, at least Padmavati, just develops a conjugal attraction to Krishna at this point, and she's stopped. She's held back by Kalindi. So in this way, they're reenacting their pastimes in Vrindavan. And Krishna is so happy at this point. He's happiest in Vrindavan. And they decide, let's go to the Yamuna. So as they go to the Yamuna, Krishna noticed the Yamuna looked quite a bit different than it usually did. And, there were like big waves. And what's interesting, sometimes you watch these Mahabharata movies, and what they depict as the Yamuna is actually the ocean. You ever seen that? The Mahabharata? And there's waves, and I'm thinking, how are they thinking this is the Yamuna? Because they're filming in Mumbai or someplace like that on the ocean. So Krishna notices, he notices, what's happening here. So Balaram reminds him, actually, this is not Vrindavan. You have these Pandavas, and there's Dwarka, and Krishna comes back down to earth, so to speak. God coming back down to earth. And so then he goes back to Dwarka, and here's that more. And Rukmini, not being envious, but she's a Chandravali. She's not envious or angry. I mean, even if she is a little envious, it's just like, she doesn't manifest it. Was glorifying the residents of Braj, saying, we, the residents of Dwarka, are so obsessed with our family and attachments and children and all that other stuff. And the residents of Vrindavan are worshiping Krishna out of pure love, pure spontaneous love. We are worshiping out of reverence, like conditioned souls do. I mean, just like we do, right? We should worship the deities out of reverence, not like the residents. We shouldn't go on the altar and just like give a big hug to Krishna. I remember there was one pujari who with her lips kissed Krishna's feet. She didn't last very long. So anyway, Rukmini, being very humble, she said this. But Satyabhama was completely envious. I mean, manifested envy to the highest degree. So she goes into a room in the palace that's specifically reserved for anger. I guess it has padded walls or something like that. and she's pounding on the floor. Uh, we see this also in Lord Ram's pastimes. Like Kay, she's in the anger room, and Dasarath is saying, "What's the problem? What's the problem? Please get up." He's really henpecked, and he's ready to offer her everything. But Krishna acts a little bit differently when he hears that uh, Satyabhama is there. He doesn't get henpecked at this particular point, although sometimes it appears like he's henpecked, just like when Satyabhama wanted the Parijata tree from the heavenly planets. But that was to teach the residents of the heavenly planets a lesson. So Krishna, instead of just getting like controlled by her fit, it's interesting. She's throwing a fit, isn't it? That's what we call it. I mean, it's transcendental. She's a pure, she's Shakti. She's a pure self, pure personality. So we don't not criticize. This is a pastime. So Krishna is angry with her, and he doesn't even call her by name. He says, "Get her here," and he calls her in terms of her father's name, Satyajati. Just like if you are angry with your son or daughter, you say, "Your son." Guess what your son did? Guess what your daughter did? Guess what your guru did? That's interesting, isn't it? Your husband did. So Krishna gets very angry, and he glorifies the Brajabasis. And he actually explains that, it's really like an arrow in her heart. That actually, I didn't really want to get married to you or to anybody. I wanted to be a brahmachari. Krishna's a brahmachari because he doesn't feel any lust. That's the definition of brahmachari. Because he's the supreme Brahman, the supreme personality of Godhead. So Krishna says that actually the only reason I married you, my wives, is that you remind me of my girlfriends in Vrindavan. And they are expansions, like I mentioned before, how Satyabhama's expansion of Srimati Radharani. So he says, you remind me, and that's why I got married to you. Otherwise, I didn't plan on getting married. And he also explains why he never really went back to Vrindavan. Not because he didn't want to go back to Vrindavan, but because he was feeling so much compassion for the residents of Vrindavan that he didn't want to cause them more pain, because it's actually more pain. Let's say if someone leaves, then you never trust them again, right? If someone does something like, once you break someone's trust, it's gone. So he's thinking, if I go back, they're going to be in complete anxiety all the time, because always transcendental anxiety. Then I'm going to leave again. So it's interesting in the spiritual realm, where actually Krishna leaves apparently leaves from Mathura, and the residents of Vrindavan are feeling separation. And then Krishna comes back. They actually forget that Krishna left before. Because if they remembered that Krishna had left before, while they were enacting their pastimes, they'd always be in so much anxiety, it would interfere with their transcendental enjoyment. It's interesting, isn't it? So Krishna explains that's the reason I didn't go back to Vrindavan. So here in this particular story, the reason I cited the story, which is one of my favorite stories, especially the aspect where Krishna is chastising Satyabhama and Padmavati's interactions with everybody. The reason I cited that was to illustrate how much Krishna not only feels separation from Vrindavan, but how much Krishna loves the residents of Vrindavan, that even he's willing to forego during his earthly pastimes, going back to Vrindavan so as not to cause the residents of Vrindavan more pain. Interesting, isn't it? So this is Krishna's interaction with the residents of Vrindavan. And so now at this particular juncture, Krishna is entering Mathura. He's making believe he's happy, but he's feeling anxiety for the residents of Vrindavan and for himself being separated from Vrindavan. So we have a minute and a half. Any questions or comments? No questions. Mother Irma. Oh. No, because there'll be an anxiety. That's what Krishna says. Yes, but Balaram and Krishna are the same person. Don't ask me. I'm not a psychologist, a Christian psychologist. Anyway, because another reason is Krishna doesn't go back in spite of what he said is that he wants to draw out more of the emotions of separation on the part of the residents of Vrindavan. Because during separation, there's greater intensity of emotions. And actually, there's greater connection when you're separated. You know, what do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So, and also, you know, they were given a false purva rag. You understand? When Balaram said Krishna's coming back. So they had purva rag, but it was false because he never went back. You know, they're expecting Krishna's now coming, but he didn't come. So Krishna even further enhanced their transcendental pain, which is ecstasy. Right? Yeah. What? Yeah. And we have to leave. Yeah, because he have to go back. And another reason Krishna gave is that if he went to Vrindavan, the demons would attack Vrindavan. That's another reason. Yeah, it's pain. Yeah, that's true. On an individual basis, it would be more painful for Krishna. You have to ask him.
Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Bharavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Kamaham Bhajami Kalem Priya Priti Manti Asyan Dipan Dikayanti Giram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Krishna Namaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adi Krishna Namaham Bhajami
Bhajami. Namaho Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Virantaga Samani Dinamine Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Namini Dinamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Guramani Pacha Devi Nivasesha Shunyavadi Paschachade Sacharande Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gajada Siva Sadi Gaura Vrindana Shri Krishna Shri Advaita Gajada Siva Sadi Gaura Vrindana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gajada Siva Sati Gaura Vrindana Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gajada Siva Sadi Gaura Vrindana Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Gokinana, Radha Gokinana, Radhe. Radha Gokinana, Radha Gokinana, Radhe. Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa.